Tammy had been busy in the kitchen for a solid hour, waiting for her husband to return from work. On the table, there were all the things Russell and Tammy loved: a vegetable salad, sandwiches with calamari, and berry cranberry juice. For the 100th time, she tasted everything to check the flavor, and it seemed fine, not oversalted and very tasty. She rushed off to freshen up, putting on a light, fitted blouse and a skirt. After adjusting her hairstyle and applying a light gloss to her lips, she really looked good. Young, fresh, with a rosy blush on her cheeks and beautiful chestnut hair. Her figure was also attractive. She had everything going for her. Tammy glanced at the clock strangely. It was already 6 o'clock. Russell should have been back long ago, but his phone was out of reach or busy. Apparently, the woman tried to reassure herself, even though deep down, she understood that it wasn't the case. They had only been married for 3 years, and yet their relationship was already falling apart. No matter how hard Tammy tried to please her husband, he seemed to drift further away and grow colder. The passion in their words of love and trust had disappeared. Lately, even their intimate closeness had vanished, and the marital bed had grown cold. Her husband always had an excuse. He was tired, had work problems, and so on. Tammy's feminine intuition told her that someone else had entered his life. It was so bitter and unpleasant that she didn't want to believe it and chose to console herself with illusions. An hour later, Tammy heard the sound of the door lock turning and immediately realized that Russell was drunk again. This usually didn't bode well. In such a state, he became unbearable and picked on everything. He threw his expensive leather briefcase in the hallway and tossed his jacket right onto the floor, not even bothering to hang it up. With his eyes glazed over, he gulped down the whole still life of food, snorting disdainfully, and then it started. "Tammy, come here. What's with this rustic glamour? You'll never learn how to set the table properly. I've explained it 100 times, but it's all in vain." The woman inside her shrank, feeling guilty. She looked at her husband and started to justify herself, but he interrupted her. "Don't be upset, dear. I tried so hard. Try this, Tammy. I'll warm it up for you. Oh, and would you like some cold berry juice? Your favorite cranberry. How's your work? You're late today." Russell grimaced. "I'm not hungry. I had a meal at the restaurant during a business meeting." "So clear away your masterpieces and don't look at me like that. Yes, I had a drink, and I have every right to. Who's the master of this house? Or don't you like it that you're living a comfortable life on a silver platter? I need a shower and some sleep, and you go to your room and stop hovering around. I'm tired of seeing you constantly." Tammy burst into tears and rushed off to her room. She felt deeply hurt that he didn't even notice the change in her hairstyle. He treated her like a servant. Why? What had she done to deserve such treatment? In the darkness, she covered her eyes and thought about her life. Tammy grew up in a very poor family. Her mother worked as a janitor at a hospital, and she never knew her father, trying, like all children, to get some information about him from her mother. But she only sarcastically replied, "He was there, then he surfaced. You'll understand when you grow up. There was never any money in our family. We barely made ends meet from paycheck to paycheck. Tammy always wore other people's clothes, which kind-hearted neighbors would pass along, and she only saw toys on her birthday. In school, she was at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Her classmates made fun of her and didn't want to be friends, especially because the class was filled with children of doctors and traders, while Tammy was considered a troublemaker. Zinaida Fedorovna, Tammy's mother, deliberately avoided attending school meetings as they seemed more like gatherings of a sect with constant demands for money for school needs. This led to Tammy also being disliked because her family never contributed the required money. Despite the poverty, she did well in her studies, particularly excelling in mathematics. Therefore, after finishing school, Tammy decided to apply to the economics faculty at the university. However, without connections or support, she failed to get in through the competition. With no money for tuition, she had to settle for distance learning and started looking for a job without any experience or qualifications. But everywhere she went, they wouldn't take her, just like her mother. In her mind, she could still see her mother's calloused, swollen red fingers with deformed joints, a result of the heavy, strenuous work she did. These images added to Tammy's determination not to end up in similar conditions. She didn't want to toil away and carry burdens like her mother. Unexpectedly, fortune smiled upon her. While arranging her documents for university admission, she went to a photo studio to take a picture. There, she struck up a conversation with a kind-looking older photographer named Mikhail Ivanovich. She complained about her inability to find a job, and he offered her to come and work with him as an intern and salesperson for the studio. He handed her a camera and said, "Come on, my beauty, take a shot of me. Let's see what you can do. Don't be afraid, just try it out. Notice where the light is coming from and make sure I face the camera. You've got an excellent eye for framing, so I think you'll manage. And editing and printing in the computer is not too complicated. I'll teach you everything. Developing film, working with the cash register, piece of cake. I have a feeling you'll get along well. You seem resourceful. Of course, there's no dusty labor or carrying bags on your shoulders. What do you say? If you agree, come on Monday." Tammy jumped with joy. "Thank you so much, Mikhail Ivanovich. I agree. It sounds like an exciting job, and I really like it. I'll do my best." With the guidance of Mikhail Ivanovich, Tammy started working at the photo studio every day, and she was delighted with her new opportunity. New people in general, communication with them wasn't boring. Of course, there were some troublesome ladies with whom things didn't always go smoothly, but the girl had a knack for smoothing out conflicts and turning them into jokes. And one day, a man named Russell came to their salon. He was a businessman with his own company selling household appliances. He needed a photo for some documents, and when he saw young Tammy, he was captivated. "Where's the photographer? I need an urgent 3x4 matte photo," he said. Tammy blushed and chirped. "I am the photographer. Have a seat. We'll take care of it in the best way. Don't worry about posing. A little higher and to the left. Yes, perfect. No blinking. There, the shot turned out great." Russell praised the girl, not only beautiful but talented too. "I'm not very photogenic, but you made me look good. By the way, my name is Russell, and yours, my lovely lady." The flattered girl replied, "To flatter girls, one should compliment them back. I'm Tammy. Nice to meet you." Russell offered, "Olga, it seems like you're a delicate little flower. I don't want to part with you. How about joining me for a cup of coffee? I really like you." Delighted, Tammy immediately agreed. Russell seemed like a prince from a fairy tale, and she fell in love with him from the first moment. The couple started dating, and Russell took her to exhibitions and concerts of famous celebrities. He showered her with heaps of tender roses and insisted on more intimate relations. However, beyond passionate kisses, they didn't progress, but Tammy was persistent. In her eyes, she always saw her tired and overworked mother, who had raised her alone. No, first the wedding, and then all the pleasures, she decided for herself. The couple got married, and they celebrated in a luxurious restaurant. Russell looked at his Tammy in her flowing white dress, and he thought of it as their wedding night. At first, married life was beautiful and cloudless, hot nights, passionate confessions, and an ocean of passion. But after a year, Russell got tired of it all, including Tammy's delicious borscht and tender kisses. He craved that feeling of excitement, the thrill of the chase when he saw an unapproachable young beauty. Tammy desperately wanted a child, but Russell was cautious, thinking it was too early. Of course, she no longer worked at the photo studio. He forbid her from doing that. She was tired of the never-ending housework, doing the same chores day in and day out: laundry, ironing, cooking, and cleaning. The more she tried to please her husband, the colder he became. It felt like a vicious circle. They went out together less and less, and they had fewer shared interests. A wall gradually grew between them. It was nighttime, and Tammy woke up, almost forgetting to put Russell's clothes in the laundry and iron his shirt for the next day. She decided to freshen up his jacket and absent-mindedly checked the pockets. Perhaps he left his keys, money, or something else. To her surprise, she found a paper, a receipt for a week-long vacation for two at a seaside resort. The payment was considerable, and Tammy's heart trembled. Could it be that Russell remembered their anniversary in 2 days and wanted to surprise her? What a darling! It will be so wonderful to spend a whole week together by the sea, she dreamily smiled to herself. I urgently need to buy a new swimsuit. There's not much time left before Russell suspects anything. Tammy hung the jacket back in the closet, thinking, surprise, surprise, no need to ruin his mood. The traces of lipstick on her husband's dirty shirt didn't bother her. It could be just a coincidence. On tiptoes, she entered her husband's bedroom. He was snoring loudly with the TV on. Tammy gently turned it off, covered Russell with a blanket, and whispered, "I love you, my dear. Good night." She almost went back to the kitchen to fry some thin, lacy pancakes and make coffee when she realized she should wake her husband up for breakfast. Tammy looked at him with so much love, waiting for him to mention the trip as it was planned for tomorrow. Russell ate with appetite and casually said, "Thanks, everything was delicious as always. Listen, Tammy, could you pack my suitcase? I'm leaving on a business trip tonight for a week. I'll probably be back on Sunday evening or even at night. Unexpectedly, things came up and business is business, can't do anything about it. Anyway, I have to rush, I'll be late." Russell left and Tammy remained seated, feeling as if she were nailed down. Tears started streaming from her eyes and she couldn't stop them. It felt so bitter and hurtful. So the surprise wasn't for her. He was planning a trip with his mistress. She had been dreaming foolishly, thinking about buying a new swimsuit. Dark thoughts started swirling in her head. What should I do? Should I create a scene when he returns tonight? What's the use? He's already made up his mind to go. She considered pretending not to know anything, but it was so humiliating, and it explained why they had no intimacy anymore, why they slept in separate rooms. So she spends her days doing all the chores, tirelessly cleaning and cooking, while her husband gallivants around with another woman on vacations. He had become a sneak. She decided not to say anything. Let him go. They'll see how things play out. Tammy packed her husband's suitcase, and he left after giving her a kiss on the cheek as if nothing happened. She started crying inconsolably. Her heart ached. She felt terrible. To prevent herself from going crazy, she decided to go outside, get some fresh air, and take a walk. Maybe she'd go to the store to buy something. The first things she saw were bread and milk. Tammy wandered through the park. Tears kept rolling down her cheeks, and she wiped them away. She was lost in thoughts of how she could continue living with him after this. How could she look him in the eye? They no longer had a family. It was all deception, a bubble. She's just convenient for Russell, and that's all. About love, there is none. Suddenly, a whole pack of stray dogs came flying out from the alley. They surrounded her, baring their teeth, barking loudly, and trying to bite. Tammy was terrified and started screaming hysterically. Since childhood, she had a phobia of dogs. The fear had paralyzed her. Not far away, a homeless man sat on a bench with his belongings, empty bags, cans, and bottles he had collected from the landfill during the day. Seeing what was happening, he rushed to help the poor stranger, swinging his bags and scaring the dogs away. They immediately turned their attention to him, tearing his pants and slightly scratching his hands. The homeless man then cleverly grabbed a large rock and hurled it at the most aggressive dog, making it yelp and run off. The others followed the leader, and Tammy sighed with relief, rushing to her rescuer. "Thank you. May God bless you. If it weren't for you, those evil dogs would have torn me apart. Did they hurt you?" the woman asked the homeless man. "Nothing serious. I'll be fine. "By the way, my name is Max," the homeless man managed to say before collapsing unconscious. Tammy rushed to help him, shaking him, patting his cheeks. Her heart was pounding as if in fever. What's going on? Why does it feel like everything is against me today? One misfortune after another. Why did I even leave my house? Tammy thought. Come on, wake up. Get yourself together, she said to the homeless man, who slowly regained consciousness, mumbling, "Oh, my head is spinning. It's probably from hunger. I haven't eaten anything in 2 days. I'm sorry. I scared you." "Don't worry. Everything will be fine. Let's check you out. My name is Tammy. Come, let's go to my place. You can eat and rest. Why sit on this bench? It's cold outside, isn't it?" Tammy insisted. Max hesitated. "It's inconvenient, you see. I probably have a family, a wife and children. They won't be happy to see me like this." Tammy waved her hands. "No, I don't have any children, and my husband, that jerk, is on vacation with his mistress, so you won't bother anyone. Come on, Max, let's go." They arrived at Tammy's home, which was warm and cozy. The woman quickly set the table and invited Max to dine. He praised her pancakes and showered her with compliments, saying, "You're a great hostess. I can't believe this treat. You know, I'm actually Petrovich." Arrived at Tammy's home, which was warm and cozy. The woman quickly set the table and invited Max to dine. He praised her pancakes and showered her with compliments, saying, "You're a great hostess. I can't believe this treat. You know, I'm actually Petrovich, but you don't look like you'd annoy anyone. Come on, Max, let's go." They arrived at Tammy's home, which was warm and cozy. The woman quickly set the table and invited Max to dine. He praised her pancakes and showered her with compliments, saying, "You're a great hostess. I can't believe this treat. You know, I'm actually Petrovich, but you don't look like you'd annoy anyone." "I don't want to talk about it. Okay, I overstayed. It's time to say thank you." "Thanks for the bread and salt. You are a kind person. I'll be on my way now," the homeless man said. The hostess looked out the window. Raindrops were hitting the glass, and the wind was blowing. She insisted that he stay for the night, as going out in such weather would make him wet and sick. The homeless man hesitated, wondering if she was afraid he might be a killer or a maniac. However, she waved her hand and said, "I'm in such a state of mind right now that I don't care about anything. Do whatever you want. I'm indifferent." She turned and went to her bedroom. Max didn't need much convincing. He also didn't want to leave this cozy and welcoming home and go back to his wandering life. He gratefully went to take a shower and soon fell into a deep sleep on the soft couch under the warm blanket. Even for Tammy, it was a brief respite from her suffering, forgetting for a while about her unfaithful husband. Tammy didn't understand why she allowed a stranger, especially a homeless man, into her home. He could have stolen from her or done something else, knowing that she lived alone. But she felt no fear. On the contrary, she felt at ease, knowing she wouldn't be spending the night alone in the large mansion. Max, or Petrovich, didn't seem like a hardened criminal from the road, but rather a lost traveler in life. The next morning, as Tammy was still half asleep, her mother arrived at the door with her bags. She asked why Tammy was still sleeping, as they had planned to go to the market. Her mother noticed that she didn't look well and asked where her husband Russell was, assuming it was a day off. Suddenly, her mother saw Max coming out of the living room and stared at him in amazement. Tammy lost her ability to speak, almost screamed, trying to explain the situation. "You see, Mom, I was so upset yesterday. Russell, it turns out, is cheating on me and went on vacation with his lover. But I'll tell you more about it later. So, as I was coming home from the store through the park, a pack of dogs attacked me. Max fought them off. The homeless man was sleeping on a bench, so I felt sorry for him and invited him home to eat and spend the night in warmth. That's the whole story. Please don't get upset. I know it was impulsive, but it turned out well. So don't worry," Tammy tried to explain. Her mother was still in shock, but she calmed down a bit when Tammy assured her that everything was fine. At that moment, several limousines pulled up to the yard, and elegantly dressed men got out and approached the door. Tammy was bewildered, wondering who they were and what they wanted. She even thought that it might be Russell's companions who had come for some reason. But to her surprise, the businessmen entered the living room, greeted Max warmly, patted him on the back, and praised him. They said something about winning a bet, and there was some evidence on video. "But you see, we were keeping an eye on you as we had agreed, $1 million with us," Max said, waving his hands. "No, I won't go. I'll be back later. I have an important conversation here. Fate decides everything later, things only. Leave my wallet, not on the bus, right?" Tammy is returning home. As if stunned, she slumped into a chair. Mechanically, she twirled a bathrobe belt in her hand and looked around in confusion. "Someone, please explain something to me eventually, because so far all this reminds me of a madhouse. Who are these people, and who are you, Max? Clearly you are not a vagabond. And how do you know my mom? I can tell from your eyes that you are familiar with her," Max said, gathering his thoughts. Zinaida Fedorovna rushed to him. "Why are you silent? Come on, tell our daughter who you are. Her father, your Olenka's and my ex-husband, a big scoundrel who left me without batting an eye. In our youth, he threw me away like an old unwanted shoe. I'd kill you if I could," she said, astonished. "Bum," the daughter gasped, holding her head. "What is going on here? Have you all gone crazy? What father? Mom, you're delusional. You always told me that he was gone. I thought my dad was dead, and you just don't want to upset me." The elderly woman waved her hand dismissively and suddenly burst into tears. "What was I supposed to tell you? That your father was never faithful to me, that he gambled at the casino, and then one day he threw me out like a wretched broom." "Oh, Max, don't be silent. Tell our daughter everything. Now that we've met, she tormented me throughout her childhood, asking where her father was and why he wasn't with us." Max let out a heavy sigh and began his lengthy narrative. "Oh, my dear daughter, this is a long story, but I suppose I'll start. I was born into a wealthy family and grew up in luxury and abundance. I had everything my heart desired, and in my childhood I was never punished, only indulged in my whims. Thus I grew up as a complete ne'er-do-well, without any intention of taking responsibility. I spent my days carousing with friends and squandering my parents' money at the casino. Despite graduating from a prestigious university, I caused my parents endless worry and frustration. Then the tragic day came when my mother passed away, and it hit me hard. It made me rethink my life and finally come to my senses. My father insisted that I should get married at that time, just as your mother came to work at our mansion as a cleaner. Well, or a housekeeper, as they say fashionably. She was so beautiful, with the figure of a model and eyes one could drown in. I fell head over heels for her and courted her persistently, but Zinaida was as hard as a rock. She always told me, "You won't marry me anyway. You'll just toy with me and then abandon me, and I'll suffer afterwards." One evening, just for fun during dinner, I jokingly said, "I'll marry Zina. I love her, period. And if not her, then no one at all." Everyone was shocked. Of course, my father knew about my frivolous nature, and while he admired the prospective daughter-in-law, the cleaner, he agreed reluctantly. "I hope this will finally bring you to your senses, and you'll stop leading such a dissolute life," he said. Zinichka was over the moon with happiness. We genuinely loved each other. She turned out to be an excellent wife and homemaker, always preparing hot meals for me and maintaining a clean home. I was initially over the moon, showering her with gifts, but then I grew tired of it all. I got bored, and the call of freedom lured me back to the lights of nightclubs and parties. I started hanging out with friends, drinking and coming home in the early hours of the morning. She cried, forgave and loved me, a fool. She begged me to come to my senses, but I just brushed it off. One day I got so angry that I lashed out and yelled at someone, saying they were just a maid and not good enough for me. I told her to leave, saying everything here was bought with my money, and she was nobody. I was drunk then and fell asleep without remembering those words. When I woke up in the morning, the house was quiet, with neither my wife nor her belongings. There was only a note saying, "It's better to be a cleaning lady with a pure soul than to be such a scoundrel like you." That's it. At first, I felt a sense of freedom, thinking I could do whatever I wanted and no one would bother me. So I embarked on a wild and reckless journey. My father couldn't bear to see all that and had a heart attack. He passed away soon after. It was only after his death that I began to realize the mess I had made. It was a family business, his legacy, and I couldn't lose it due to my stupidity. It took a lot of time for me to start managing it properly, and I made many mistakes along the way. I continued to have affairs with women, but they no longer brought me any joy. I probably hoped to find someone like Zinna, but I couldn't. Years passed, and I gave up drinking long ago. My health wasn't great, and a week ago I had a bet with my friends. Vatic told me, "You're a fool, Max, always fooling around like you're on the edge all the time. It would be better if you spent your money on something good. You know how many people in dire need there are in this world. Live as a homeless person for a week, and you'll learn a lot." He even put $1 million at stake. They hit my hand and the show began. I dressed up as a vagabond and went out on the streets. At first, it was quite intriguing. It felt like a game, and I had a sense of lightness and freedom. But soon it got dark, and I needed a place to spend the night. I went into a building's entrance, and some old woman chased me away, screaming at the top of her lungs, saying I was a junkie and that she would call the police. The situation was similar at the station, and all the places among the homeless were taken. So I ended up sleeping in the park on a hard bench, feeling cold and realizing I had not even a penny for a cheap hostel or some bread. Join the homeless and search for empty bottles in dumpsters. How humiliating it was to live like that, barely surviving. We were all living off scraps, and these homeless people who didn't even know me didn't push me away. Instead, they shared the leftover food from cafe visitors with me. They could have eaten it themselves, as they were starving too, but they gave it to me, saying, "You'll get used to it." We all went through the same at first. We were all ashamed initially, but then we broke down. Hunger spares no one. I realized more in that 1 week than in my entire life. My dear ones, I won't be the same as before. I've learned to appreciate a crust of bread and respect people. I won't waste money anymore. Instead, I'll help those poor souls like them. Zinaida Fedorovna was shocked, looking at Max, unable to believe her ears. "I can't recognize you anymore, Max," she said. The man hung his head, seeking forgiveness. "I'm sorry, Zinotka, if you can forgive me. I was a fool when I was young, mistreating you. I didn't appreciate the warmth of a loving home, but I didn't know you were pregnant. Why didn't you tell me? I could have raised our daughter and supported you." The woman waved her hand dismissively, feeling hurt. "I was strong then. You had no regard for me, called me a cleaning lady, and I found out about the pregnancy only after we broke up. So I decided, why would my daughter need a father like you, a womanizer who doesn't respect her mother? I raised Tammy myself, even though it was tough. Look at what a beautiful girl she has become. But she's repeating my fate, in love with a heartbreaker who doesn't care. And he doesn't even care to see how my daughter suffers." Tammy couldn't even say a word. She was in shock. She asked, "But do you give support, Mom?" Dad was out, so I never knew about the existence of my biological father. How is this possible? It's so upsetting. No, I'm not judging. I find myself in a similar situation. My husband turned out to be a scoundrel and a womanizer, and now I understand how my mom felt back then. But you, Dad, didn't you ever want to know how your ex-wife was doing? I don't understand. It's so inhumane, even for you, Max Petrovich. I'm sorry, I'm at fault here, and I have nothing to hide. I thought only about my own pleasure and brought trouble to my parents with my reckless actions. Sinochka, I lost you, and I didn't even know about one thing, which I ask you, my dear ones, not to reject me now. I'm so happy that I accidentally found you. Let's try to rebuild our relationship, communicate, and live together. I still have the huge country house, but it feels so empty and lonely. Please come with me, Tammy, my daughter. You yourself said your husband is a scoundrel, so move in with me, or else you'll continue to suffer, knowing he's cheating on you. You're my family, and I won't let you go anywhere now. I have a reason to live and wake up every morning, and it's worth a lot. Max had to put in a lot of effort to regain her trust. He literally had to win her heart again. Zenaida was hesitant. Her past had taken a toll on her appearance. The heavy and hellish labor had left its marks, bags under her eyes and wrinkles. Her figure had changed, but she had given up on herself long ago and abandoned the idea of having a personal life. So why would she need Max now if he could easily sweep any beauty off her feet? However, Tammy decided to move in with her father. She couldn't bear the thought of her husband coming back after a few days, tanned and carefree, making up stories about difficult negotiations and referring to fatigue. It was disgusting and repulsive. So on the same day, she packed all her belongings and moved to live with her father. There was no awkwardness or discomfort between them. They hit it off right away. Tammy enjoyed cooking delicious meals for her father, who in turn admired her and said, "You're just like your mother, smart, skilled, and a great homemaker. Your husband is a fool for losing such a woman. Maybe you should give it another chance." Tammy shook her head. "I can't, Dad. I can't trust him anymore. Even if he tries to win me back, I won't go back to him. You see, it took me so many years to understand that Mom was better off without you. Listen, Dad, I've been thinking. It's not right for a young girl like me to stay at home all the time. I want to do something I'm passionate about, and I'd like to open a private nursing home and a volunteer center to help the homeless. I could bring them hot meals and medicine a couple of times a week and provide them with warm clothes. It's also essential to help the elderly, as many of them are unwanted, even by their own children. I want to give them warmth and care. I would be happy to do this if you could help me run it, especially in the beginning." Max smiled and said, "Well, we've decided where to spend the $1 million we won on a good cause. So go ahead, daughter, be bold, and it will help you take your mind off sad thoughts. I'll always be there to support you, and no one will hurt you anymore." Russell was driving home, feeling as happy as can be. His lover, Angela, had drained him of all his energy during the past week. The temptation, the sea, the sun, and the wine had contributed to complete relaxation. However, something bothered him a bit. Throughout the entire week, Tammy hadn't called him once, didn't ask about his well-being, didn't tell him she missed him, nor pleaded for him to return home earlier. It was unusual, unexpected, and even hurtful. He was used to his wife fawning over him, believing his lies, and knowing that she eagerly awaited his return because she loved him so much. He had already imagined her waiting for him, having prepared a delicious dinner, looking at him with those loyal eyes and telling him how much she missed him. But Tammy didn't seem to miss him at all. He was tired of Tammy. He didn't miss her at all. But his well-established life and his prestigious position in society were enough for him. He habitually entered the house, casually threw his jacket, and dropped his suitcase, assuming that his wife would sort everything out, do the laundry, and take care of the household. "Tammy, Tammy, where are you? Why aren't you here? Is the food ready? I'm so hungry." The mansion was eerily quiet, and it felt empty. No one responded to Russell. Such a situation had never occurred before. His wife never failed to meet him and welcome him home. It was unheard of. Something wasn't right. Russell went to the kitchen, but it didn't even smell like food was cooked. He went through the rooms, and only then did he notice that Tammy's wardrobe was completely empty. He rushed to the wardrobe in the hallway. The same story. No coats, no shoes, nothing. Furious, Russell called her mobile phone and Tammy answered on the first ring. Russell shouted, "I don't understand. Where are you? Why aren't you at home? What's going on? I came back from my business trip tired and hungry and there's no sign of you. Why aren't you at home? I was looking forward to a tasty dinner with you." Tammy replied firmly, "Russell, I'm not at home, and I won't be waiting for you anymore. I'm fed up with your games. You come back from your business trips exhausted and hungry, and your wife is nowhere to be found. I wasn't expecting anything different from you. I had hoped for a week's vacation by the sea with my beloved husband, but you took someone else there, your mistress. That's how it goes, right? And you shamelessly lied to my face about a work trip. I know everything, Russell. I've long suspected. So we are getting divorced, and from now on, you can shout and help your new chick. I won't raise my voice because of her, understand? You have no conscience at all." The man was taken aback and went on the offensive. "Come home immediately. Divorce wasn't part of my plans, so I had a little affair, big deal. Let's talk like adults. We have a family after all. Do you want me to buy you a vacation package?" Tammy suddenly burst into laughter. "And what was part of your plans? To keep lying to me and fooling around with others while I manage the household. A great family, nothing to say. No, Russell, that won't work. I've said it all and I won't go back. I'll file for divorce myself. Farewell, and I hope you'll be happy with your new fling." Tammy hung up and threw the phone, which almost shattered into pieces, sobbing loudly. From that moment, she no longer had a husband. She was alone now. Max quietly approached her from behind, gently patting his daughter's shoulders. He began to speak softly. "Dear, my darling, don't torment yourself over him. You're not alone. You have me and your mother. We are a family, and we'll always be here to help and support you. Time heals, and you'll surely meet a good and decent person. You'll have children of your own." Tammy hugged her father, leaning on him trustingly. "It's so good that we are together now, Daddy. We talked, and I feel lighter. You're right. I need to distract myself. I'll focus on establishing a nursing home and a volunteer center. Less time to think about Russell." Max said softly, "My dear daughter, don't worry too much. Let's talk to your mother. I've changed, Tammy. Maybe she'll move in with me or vice versa. She's always had a strong character. I still love Zina, and I don't want anyone else." Initially, Russell was outraged and angry. Who was she to talk to him like that? Just a repair woman. So what if he had an affair? Besides, Angela would be happy to be his lover. He could marry her and that would be the end of it. But things turned out differently. Angela wasn't thrilled with the news at all. Being his mistress was fun and carefree, but living with him 24/7 was another story. She had no intention of spending her time cooking and cleaning for him. Moreover, she yelled at him on parting, "You're an idiot and a tyrant. I even pity your wife for putting up with you. I'm not your servant, and I won't allow you to boss me around. I'll find myself a new rich sugar daddy." Russell was left alone with his broken ego, and when he found out that Tammy was now a wealthy heiress living with her millionaire father, Yershov, he became even more crestfallen. He tried calling his ex-wife several times, waited for her near the nursing home, but when he saw her, he didn't recognize the same modest and quiet Olenka. Instead, he saw a confident, stylish woman with a trendy haircut and bright manicure, looking absolutely stunning. The sight hit him right in the gut, just like before. The fresh and happy Tammy, now without him, made him feel regretful. The man called after her, "Tammy, wait, hold on for a moment. You look so beautiful, just super. Listen, can we talk? I still love you and I want you to come back." Tammy smiled indulgently. "Thank you for the compliment, but honestly, you don't look great, if I'm being honest." I returned, "And why should I please you by cooking borscht and shining your shoes? You never appreciated anything I did, and you kept fooling around. No more family for us, Russell, that's for sure. I've said it before and I won't go back. Forgive me, I was a fool. A woman can mend a broken cup, sure, but you can't drink from it again. It leaks. I can't trust you anymore, you see. And what kind of family is that? Goodbye, Russell. Don't follow me. I won't come back. Russell felt bitter and hurt. His wife left him. His failing business was falling apart, and competitors attacked like piranhas. It all collapsed before his eyes, like a house of cards. Friends openly criticized Russell for losing such an excellent wife and homemaker. Many said to his face, "Oh, you lost such a woman for a one-time fling. You should have taken care of someone like Tammy. She did everything for you. And you, Russell, started drowning your sorrows more often, drinking cognac to drown your guilty conscience." He sought solace in the arms of call girls, but when he found them in his bed in the morning, he chased them away with a scream. However, he now understood that a strong family and a faithful, loving wife were a solid foundation for a man. It's a pity that he realized it too late. Meanwhile, Angela quickly forgot about Russell and within a month went off to Spain with her elderly, wealthy lover. Tammy pursued her favorite business and found happiness. As for the party-loving businessman, he ended up lonely, drowning his sorrows in alcohol. Across from him, Zinaida Fedorovna seemed to have a new lease on life. The man showed her a completely different, beautiful, and prosperous life that she had never known after years of hard work with cosmetologists and massage therapists. The old woman was unrecognizable, having put her days of grueling chemical treatments behind her, which had aged and disfigured many women of her age. She had transformed with a fashionable haircut, stylish pantsuits, and elegant dresses. Zinaida looked at her reflection in awe, no longer recognizing the tired, worn-out woman she used to be, but rather a lady suitable for her wealthy husband, the businessman. Max took the girl to a museum exhibition, telling her about the history of the city. She soaked up every bit of information. It was fascinating. A year later, Tammy finally found her happiness. One day, a lonely elderly woman named Babushka Mania wandered into the nursing home. She had lost her memory and didn't know who she was or where she came from. The kind-hearted townsfolk brought her to the nursing home, and even though it was a private facility, Tammy took responsibility for her care. One day, as Tammy was checking the rooms, she saw Babushka Mania, or Maria, as they called her, holding an old photograph of a young man and smiling. Tammy approached the elderly woman and asked, "Is this your relative? Perhaps your son or someone else?" Maria sighed and replied, "I can't remember, but my heart feels that he is not a stranger to me." Tammy then took a photo and posted it on social media, along with a message saying, "Found an elderly woman without memory in the nursing home. Doing good, she doesn't want to part with this photo. Maybe someone is looking for their grandmother. Respond if it's yours." The next day, a breathless man burst into Tammy's office. "Hello, I saw your post on Odnoklasniki. The grandmother without memory you have is my mother. She went missing after my father's death, and she's been suffering from memory loss. Doctors say it's dementia, and she had a caretaker, but she wasn't attentive. Can I see her? Please." Stunned, Tammy led the man to Babushka Mania's room. He rushed to her, falling to his knees, kissing her hands and calling her Mommy. "My dearest Mommy, thank God I finally found you. I searched the whole town yesterday evening, even filed a police report. Why do you look at me as if you don't know me at all? Show your photo, you'll see I'm your son Misha, and you have a grandson, Igor. Remember." The old woman clapped her hands, saying, "Oh no, you're not Misha. You're Vasia, and I'm Maria." The man just shook his head. "No, you're not Maria, you're Klavdia Semenovna. Maria is your sister, and Vasia is her husband. You're mixing it all up, Mom." The old woman blissfully smiled. "No, you're wrong. You're not Misha, you're Vasia." The man was left speechless. "No, Maria, you're wrong. I'm your son Misha, and you have a grandson named Igor. Please try to remember." But honestly, she's in her own world now, and sometimes she remembers everything. "I'll take her home if you don't mind. I need to find a new caretaker immediately. Thank you for taking care of her. She needs round-the-clock care. I can't leave her for a moment. Sometimes, during her episodes, she wanders off, you know." Tammy offered, "The care and supervision here are excellent. You can leave her here for now, and if she gets better, you can take her home later. We have nurses, and we can arrange a doctor's examination. They're all very attentive. When she improves, you can take her back." Misha was overjoyed. "Thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you. I'm always at work in my pharmacy, busy all day. It's not easy to find a caretaker who can handle her. She's usually quiet, sitting and knitting socks. But during her episodes, she becomes restless, wandering around, mixing up memories. She has to stay with her. I can't leave her for a minute, so it's a great relief that she's in good hands here. I'll visit her any time. I can arrange a doctor's examination, too. Thank you again." Tammy said, "It's no problem. I'm glad your mother was found. But until you find a caretaker, you can leave her here. We have excellent care and supervision. You can visit her any time, and when she improves, you can take her back home." Misha was relieved. "Thank you so much. I don't know how to express my gratitude. I'm busy at my pharmacy all day, and finding a caretaker who can handle her is not easy. She's usually calm, knitting socks, but during her episodes, she becomes restless, wandering around, and confusing her memories. I have to be with her constantly, so it's a great relief that she's in good hands here. I'll visit her often and arrange a doctor's examination. Thank you again." Tammy blushed, realizing that Misha noticed her ring finger and asked if she was married. She admitted, "No, I'm divorced for a year now." Misha revealed that he was a widower. His wife passed away a year ago after a long illness. He had a son, Igor, whom he was raising alone. Tammy suggested, "Could I invite you to Igor's birthday party?" "I understand it's unexpected." "Yes, and we are almost strangers. I really liked you, and I would like to get to know you better. My son and I would be very happy to have you around." Tammy felt flustered. "All right, I'll come. Tell me the address. It's been a while since I enjoyed good company." She hadn't been anywhere for a year, burying herself in work. After her divorce with Russell, she had no interest in love affairs. But Mikhail charmed her. He was sympathetic, raising his son alone. Moreover, he was quite handsome. Tammy pondered, wondering what to give him. They were barely acquainted, and she knew nothing about his tastes and habits. She decided to buy an expensive tie for him and a robot toy for his son. She worried that there would be many guests. After all, she didn't know anyone. However, when she knocked on the door, a cute blue-eyed chubby boy opened it. He extended his hand and greeted like a grown-up. "I'm Igor, and you must be Aunt Tammy. Did you find my granny?" "Daddy told me all about it. Come on in. We've been waiting for you." Tammy laughed. "Well, hello. I'm Tammy. Here, this is for you," and she handed him the gift. Igor's eyes lit up. "Wow, cool, thank you. But it's not my birthday yet. Daddy's having fun at my expense," he said, cheekily. Mikhail and Tammy burst into laughter. Tammy helped him put on the tie, and as their hands touched, an electric current seemed to run between them. The tie complemented his shirt and eye color perfectly. Tammy was pleased that the gift was well received. The three of them sat down for dinner, and Tammy initially felt a bit shy. Still, Igor, being lively and talkative, quickly lightened the atmosphere, and the festive dinner went splendidly. As the evening darkened, Tammy realized she had overstayed and said, "Oh, I got carried away. I should be heading home. Thank you for the wonderful evening. Everything was great." Mikhail replied, "It was all thanks to you. Let me call a taxi and walk you to the entrance." Igor chimed in, "You stay, I'll be fine. You're good, Aunt Tammy. Show me your skateboard next time. Dad, let's all go to the park together next weekend. What do you think, Tammy? Are you up for it?" Tammy smiled and said, "Sure, I'd be happy to." Mikhail agreed, and they made plans for the following weekend. As Michael saw Tammy off to the taxi, he gently touched her cheek, and millions of butterflies fluttered in her stomach. He gazed at her intently and said, "I feel so good with you, Tammy. I thought I'd never say those words to anyone after Jean's death. You've turned my world upside down. I'll call you tomorrow." Tammy waved goodbye, dreamily smiling. Misha had deeply touched her soul, and she looked forward to their next meeting. The couple started dating half a year later and got married in a modest ceremony. Tammy finally found her peaceful happiness. Igor lovingly called her mom, and she melted at those words. In their new family, there was no lying, cheating, or betrayal. Michael was tender, calm, and patient, respecting Tammy and cherishing her. Soon, they began to dream of having a child together. Tammy's parents liked and got along with Michael immediately. They often cooked shashlik together and enjoyed each other's company. Meanwhile, Russell's fate was less fortunate. He couldn't keep the business, spiraled into alcoholism, and now his days were spent playing dominoes with drinking buddies in a courtyard beer bar. One day, Russell was standing by the bar in his old tracksuit, and amidst his drunken haze, he noticed a respectable family passing by. There was a man, a child around 7 years old, and a young pregnant woman. They were happily chatting and holding hands. Russell, with a blurred gaze, glanced at the woman and suddenly realized, "It's my Tammy. It's definitely her." Her pregnancy only added to her beauty, with rosy cheeks and freckles dotting her nose. Her trendy haircut had grown out, and soft locks cascaded down her shoulders like a beautiful waterfall. So she remarried and is happy, and she's carrying a child in her heart. And here I am, a drunken alcoholic. Russell felt overwhelming shame and quickly tried to disappear into the crowd, hoping Tammy wouldn't notice him. After that incident, Russell drowned his sorrows in alcohol once again, lamenting to his drinking buddies about his unjust fate, not realizing that he had destroyed his own happiness. He was to blame himself and no one else. As you sow, so shall you reap.